Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Natalie, I really appreciate you being here. I'm so glad we have someone else here. This is Debra Hamilton, and you've joined me on the first of many free webinars that I give, helping pet owners figure out how to make a plan for their pets, long-term or short-term. I'm an attorney who now mediates conflicts between people over animals. But ironically, in 2013, I had an accident that had me break my ankle. I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but that's what led me to make this MAAP plan, navigating the journey your pet takes when you can't care for it. I want to start by saying I am so delighted that all of you are here for the MAAP plan Pet Caring presentation. We're going to have a lot of fun here today. We're going to take some information. Thanks, Natalie, for saying you're excited to be here. I'm excited you're here too. Do me a favor, everyone. If you can, I see that one's on a phone, but Natalie, you're not on a phone. Let me know what kind of animals you have so we can focus toward what kind of animals are part of your life in your home, because we're going to do this discussion in a way that will provide information, valuable information for you to think about when you're thinking about caring for your pets long-term, short-term. At the end, I'm going to let you know how you can work with me if you decide to. There'll be enough information here that maybe you'll feel as if you can go off and do it on your own, and actually, that's why I do this every single month. I just want people to feel empowered to understand why they have to make a plan for their pets and the things to consider when they're making their plan for their pets. Because sometimes we forget that we are the people in our pets' lives who know all their idiosyncrasies. And so as such, oh, you're thinking about getting a new dog? Wow, Rose, that's great. Oh, great. You have horses, donkeys, cats, dogs, ducks. I love it. You have the poo-poo platter, as Brene Brown would say, but not of issues, but of animals that you love. So fabulous, because this is really about making sure that pets and all pets are taken care of long-term, short-term. So let me get started because I want to make sure I use your time valuably. I only keep you for about 20 minutes. If you have any questions, please post them on the chat. If I don't remember to see them, hey, welcome. We're just starting. It's Debra Hamilton, and you've joined the MAAP program, Planning for Your Pet's Care. We just asked everybody to put in the chat box what kind of animals they have so that I can talk sort of specifically about what kind of care you need to take for your animals. Most of the care is, I wouldn't say generic, but applicable to every animal you love and you own. Most of us have had that conversation with our parents if we're younger, with our, well, maybe not, because you think you're going to live forever, so you might not, but you should, and I'll tell you why. With our spouses if we're married, with our good friends. I've had so many glasses of wine with good friends saying, oh yeah, I'll take care of your dogs and you'll take care of my dogs if something happens to me. I will tell you that I'm an attorney. I mediate conflicts between people over animals. And when I did it, my husband said, that is such a narrow niche. And I know that the people on this call are going to say, yeah, ha, ha, not so narrow. So if we have horses, there are the barn issues. There are the issues with the farrier. There's the issues with the barn manager. If we have ducks or pigs or any sort of farm animals in a residential area, maybe chickens, then you have your neighbors you have to have a conversation with. And sometimes those conversations don't go so well. And that's where I come in. You also have, of course, divorce, landlord-tenant issues, breeder, owner, handler issues, people who buy animals from people, you have issues with that transaction. So instead of going directly to guns and litigation, I help people have a conversation confidentially so that they can work it out so that they can actually wave to their neighbor when they pull out of the driveway. That's my mission in life. I was a litigator. I'm recovering. Every day is a struggle because when you go to law school, you are taught a certain way of thinking about disagreements, and I'm switching that switch. It's been 10 years now. It's a little more natural to me, but sometimes I catch myself having my legal bias kick in, and I have to sort of take a number of deep breaths. But today we're talking about how to care for your pets. It's really a very important plan to make. You've already made the biggest step by being here because, well, your pets cannot take care of themselves. And I'm not talking just about putting all of your plans in your will. That is fabulous. That's great. If you've done it, awesome. But you have to die. I used to call this program I'm Not Dead Yet, because people would put all of their plans in their will, and then if they broke a limb, got sick, suffered from dementia or cancer, suffered with cancer, suffered from dementia, they didn't realize that all the plans that they made in their will didn't come to fruition. And their attorneys, I love them, I do because I am one, didn't really make that clear. I don't know how many of the programs I've given, I give weekend programs where we sit down and do this together. So you get it done. It's not something that like this 20 minutes and you get a flavor for it and think you can do it. And then, sort of like a diet, I'm going to do it tomorrow. So you don't get to do it. But on my weekend programs, people are like, wow, I never knew. I never knew I had to do this. I never knew I had to make plans for my pets. As an attorney, the type of planning terrifies me. Incapacity is so much. Absolutely. It really is. It's terrifying. So for me, I'll tell you why I made this plan. 2013, snow on the ground. One of my girls got out of my backyard. And I, in my brilliance, thought, well, it's a fresh snow. I can find out where she got out of the backyard and make sure I can fix the fence wherever it was. Well, guess what? I slipped, fell, laying in the snow. I lived on 4 acres at the time, so I was about 2 acres from my house, which is a little bit of a walk when you have a broken ankle. I looked up at the sky and I said to God, are you kidding me? Did you not look at my calendar over the next 8 weeks? I was going to be the chairman of my national for my breed, which is Irish setters. I said, you have got to be kidding me. But he wasn't. He, I guess, decided I needed a break. I really don't know what he decided, but I had broken my ankle. The good news was I didn't need surgery. The bad news was I had to stay off of it for 8 weeks. And all of my dogs, I had 9 at the time, were fed and cared for and bathed, because I show dogs. So I keep them bathed and cared for. I practice law on the side, my husband says. I really don't practice law. I do. But my knitting, my meditation is grooming my dogs. So I didn't have any plan in place. Ironically, my best friend, who said always, I would be the one to take care of your pets if something happens to you. I said, great. I called her up. She had just broken her wrist. I called my other friend who has a huge kennel in New Jersey, and I said, can I bring my kids down to you and drop them off while I'm recovering? She goes, I would love to, but I'm renovating my kennel, and so I don't have any extra kennels for your dogs to go in. So there I was, 9 dogs, my husband, my son who was returning to college, and me in a cast. So I said, it is not good. And what can I do? So as it turns out, I was able to find someone in the area who I knew, who knew my dogs, to come and take care of my dogs for me, because my husband raised his hand and said, hey, I'm taking care of you. I am not taking care of 9 dogs. And some of us have spouses like that. Some of us are blessed with spouses who, pitch in with the dogs. My husband, I love him. Been together for 40 years. However, the dogs are mine. And he always tells people he never read the fine print in the marriage contract that said I would have more than 1 dog. So if you're like me, maybe you need to make a plan. It was while I was sitting with my broken ankle, I wrote the first iteration of this plan. It was called I'm Not Dead Yet, and really set forth the concepts you need to address when you own a pet. They cannot take care of themselves. Not now, not ever. Whether it's a horse, a dog, a chicken, parrot, these long-lived animals like parrots and horses, if you haven't made a long-term plan for them, you really aren't being forward-thinking. I actually had a friend who had a parrot who passed away, but she had put me, because I'm 10 years younger than she is, on as her parrot's person and put it in writing and put it on a refrigerator, because she said, I don't want anybody to think that the parrot doesn't have a place to go if something happens to me. So if you have animals and you're here, let me help you think about the 4 things. That's what MAAP stands for: navigating the journey your pet takes when you can't care for it. There are 4 things you absolutely have to do. And I take this to a greater degree in our blueprint program, which I'll tell you about later. But these are the things that you can do, and maybe you can do them yourself. Some people do. I'm not really good at doing anything alone. I also need to have somebody pushing me, or somebody guiding me, or somebody checking my answers. I love when people check my answers. Did I get this right? So the first part is making a plan. You have to make a plan for the pet. So if it's a horse, you talk to the people in the barn. If something happens to me, will you be willing to take care of the horse? If something happens to me, will you be able to take the horse if the barn doesn't have anyone? You really have to take the time to find the people who are going to care for you. I know that one of the listeners here is my dear friend, Janice Lunderville, who just wrote a 2nd book. She is like the poster child for the MAAP plan, because she takes in horses that are in desperate conditions. She took in and recovered one horse named Sable, and she has a book called Sable on Amazon. And if you write me later, I can tell you, if you put your emails in the box over here, I can send you the link. But now she's just issuing another book called Charger. So this was another horse that she rescued. And what I love about Janice is she's sort of my tribe. She doesn't hold people guilty or shame or blame them for having their horse fall on hard times. When she's able to locate the original horse's owner, she includes them in the recovery, which really makes the horse recover more quickly. And I'll tell you how I know that. I had to place my horse 10 years ago, and I haven't seen him in 10 years because, as all of you might think, seeing him would have been an emotional upheaval for me that I wasn't really able to handle until last week. And it was incredible. He's in a great place. He's with a great owner who's like 30 years younger than me. And she rides him a little because he's 30 now, but she got him when he was 20. He did everything she wanted him to do. But when he saw me, his pace picked up. When I left, he was whinnying from the fields. And Morgan, the girl who owns him now, says, he never does that. And I turned to her and I said, oh, he does that for me. So knowing that the horses will remember you, and knowing that they are really relying on you to make this plan, is incredibly key. So Janice is publishing this book. If anybody wants to know about it, I'm going to buy a bunch of copies and give them out at my next program. But if you'd like to have a copy, just email me and I'll let you know how to do it, because it really is a heartwarming story. And she sort of does the MAAP plan for people she doesn't know. So here it is. The M stands for making a plan, which means you have to think about what it is you want your pets to be provided with if you can't provide it. Now, you have to be reasonable. There are some people who go, well, there is no one who can take care of my pets as well as I can. And that's incredibly true. No one will. However, your dog might thrive in a situation where they're safe, they're warm, they're fed, they're loved. Might not be your house. There's a woman suing someone, I just read in an article, because they're not allowing the cat to sleep on the bed, but the cat is safe and warm and fed. And I'm like, okay, that's a little unreasonable. Let's not sue the person who adopted the cat when you couldn't take it. Let's understand that the cat adapted. And if you were there, the cat would sleep on your bed, but not so much now. So we make reasonable plans for the care of our horses, dogs, chickens, ducks, whatever, going forward. What can I do? What can I reasonably expect someone else to do? They can either come into my house and take care of them in my house if you're just ill. And that really will make you recover so much faster. I always look at the Neulasta commercials for cancer recovery. They always say, don't you want to stay home and have Neulasta delivered at home? And then they show you the dog. They show you the dog that's helping the person recover. However, my mom passed away from bone cancer, and she was so sick and in so much pain. And the dog she wanted to see was my little dachshund. And I brought my dachshund every single time I saw her, but she didn't have to care for it. She didn't have to worry that somebody was going to feed it. Now, if you have a dog, you don't want to have to worry about feeding it as you're praying to the porcelain goddess due to chemotherapy. You want to know that the dog is being taken care of, but you still have it in your life so it can give you that energy you need from unconditional love. So for me, making a plan is the first step. And sometimes people raise their hand and go, Deborah, I don't know how to make a plan. I don't know what to do. I don't know where I want them to go. I don't know how they want them to be taken care of. And that's why joining me for the Blueprint program helps us distill down what it is you really want them to do, where you want them to go. It is so important. That original plan that you make, and then you finesse and you massage and you figure out what really, truly is important for the future care of your pet, for the short-term or long-term care. For you, that's what's really, really important. The next one, so it's MAAP. That's why there's two A's. So one is, the second letter is A. So you need to appoint caregivers. That's easy, right? Not so much. Sometimes we have people who will step into our shoes and know what we want, but most of the time, most of what we know about our dogs and cats and horses and chickens is in our brain. I know how much I feed my dogs. I never measure. Have you measured how much you feed your dog or cat recently? Unless they're overweight and the vet has put you on a strict diet, unlikely. You just know, okay, this is how much I put in, and they eat it and we're all good to go. But if somebody has to step into your shoes, that knowledge is in your brain and not open and available for them to use. So you really need to address the needs. You need to appoint caregivers who are going to step into your shoes and be able to understand what it is that you want done for your pets. And there has to be redundancy. So what do I mean by that? Can't just have family members. I love people who say, no problem. My daughter is going to take my dog or cat. And I go, okay, that's great. And I can tell you, as many people who come up and tell me my daughter or son are going to take my dog and cat, I have twice as many daughters and sons come up to me and say, what do? I don't want to take my mother's dog or cat. They're going to say yes because they want to make you feel better. But most of those dogs, and you can check with any shelter in any town, most of the older dogs that are dropped off because someone got sick or someone died and the family couldn't take the dog. So it's great to go to that. I mean, I have two sons, one's 29 and one's 26. The 29-year-old just moved into a building, a little bungalow in Los Angeles that does take dogs, which is great, except my dogs hate cats and he has a cat. So how's that going to work for me? My youngest son lives in an apartment now in Vero Beach and they don't take animals. So I don't have anybody to take my dogs except my husband, who of course would, but I have redundancy. I have 3 other people, plus I have the National Rescue for my breeds on alert to care for my dogs if something happens to me. Because I want to know that if, friend A can't take my dog, she knows that there's friend B and C. Friend B and C also know that if A is overwhelmed, they can step in and help A. There is this collaboration in care so that you know that the pet is going to receive the care no matter what happens to you. So appointing caregivers is key. I know this is tricky because a lot of people don't feel they know anyone. And believe me, I've had so many discussions with veterinarians and dog walkers and vet techs who say, nobody ever asks me. I'd be happy to. The other A stands for addressing the needs of your pet. I alluded to that when I talked about appointing caregivers. You really want to address all those special needs your pet has. And I'm not just talking about how much food they eat. That's very important, absolutely. What they can't eat, that's even more important. But are they afraid of thunder and lightning storms? Are they afraid of certain things in your house, like the shower or when the bells ring or something? Or are they, fear biters in situations where small children are, or when people come to the door, ring the bell? Do they really get disturbed? Is that something someone needs to know? Absolutely. So you really need to address all their needs and tell people up front, don't be shy. Don't say, I don't want anybody to know my dog bites people in the butt. I have female Irish setters. They are so much more able to bite somebody in the butt as they're walking away than any dog I've ever known. Are they vicious? No, they just like to do it because they can. So I have to let somebody know that. Don't ever walk away from my dogs because they will nip you in the butt. Not good, but I want people to know that. So addressing the needs of the pet and addressing the personalities of the pet are key. You also don't want to put dog A with dog B if dog A and B don't like each other. I've had so many dogs over the years who didn't like each other for one reason or another, mostly the boys, sometimes the girls, and you just have to be aware of it. But if somebody's coming in new, they're not going to know that. They're going to put everybody together and the bloodshed's going to be incredible. And the last piece of the MAAP program, and believe me, I know I'm giving you so much information right now that your heads are blowing off. I have that emoji where the head is blowing off. Yes, I understand. But that's why I offer the Blueprint program. Really simple. You do it over probably 2 months. So it's not like, oh my God, you have to do it right now. We give you the templates, you fill them out, we talk about it, we tweak them so that they all work the way you want them to work, and then we move on. But the most important piece, beside making a plan and appointing caregivers and addressing the needs of your pet, is making sure people know you have this plan. I had someone who came to a program I gave several years ago in California. There were 45 people at this MAAP program put together. And one of the women went into the hospital, young woman, she was only in her 30s, for back surgery. And unfortunately, she blew a blood clot and she passed away. And her husband did not know she'd made a MAAP plan. She didn't tell him because, like, he never took care of the dogs. I probably wouldn't, before all this happened, I probably wouldn't have told my husband either because he probably doesn't care. But I know he does care. He loves my animals. I'm being very mean to him now. But her husband didn't know. He was the executor. Somebody came up to him and said, listen, I have 4 good homes for your wife's dogs. They were Irish setters. He said, fine, take them. The woman took them. And then all the co-owners, who this woman had set up as being the people who would get the dogs if something happened to her, came and said, where are the dogs? And this person turned to them and said, they're in really good homes and I don't have to tell you because the executor of the will told me to place them and I did. And he didn't know that she had made this plan. So if anything is as important as the first 3 steps, the 4th step is so much more important. And I'm not telling you just to tell the people who are, the caregivers that you've appointed. You need to tell your attorney. Natalie will agree. You have to tell your attorney that you've made this plan, and they can refer to this plan in your estate documents so that you don't have to go in and have them rewrite your estate documents all the time. They can refer to the most recent MAAP plan because that will give you the opportunity to make sure that you find the people to implement your plan at the time. Because the biggest problem is you have to renew the MAAP plan every year. I say this to people all the time. And if you join the Blueprint program, I give you a tickler every year. There may be some of you here now who are telling me, I'm coming back for a refresher, because you really want to make sure that the people you appoint can still do it. I've heard so many people who said, yeah, I'll take your dogs, Deborah. And then they move into a townhouse that doesn't allow dogs over 20 pounds. Well, thankfully, no Irish setter is under 20 pounds. So they're not going to take my pets. So that's why it's really important to publish it with your attorney so they can know what it is that you want to do with your pets. I've worked with so many attorneys and trusts and estates who say, thank God. I am so glad you're here because I have no idea what this person is talking about. And if you can walk her through this, and then we can refer to the MAAP plan in her estate documents, that's great. So that's what I do. Then what I do is I always make sure that there is a pet trust that stands alone outside the will. Because did you know that if you don't die, whatever plan you put in your will does not come to fruition? Deborah, you're a broken record. Yes, I am. I said it at the beginning of the call and I wasn't sure if everybody was on, so I wanted to make sure they heard it again. If all of your plans are in your will and you don't die, they don't come to fruition. In addition, If you do die, those plans do come into fruition, but it takes a while to probate. So you may not have money to cover the expenses up front unless you've made a plan for that, unless there's a fund for it, unless you have a power of attorney. There's a whole litany of things that could happen. But if you have a pet trust sitting outside, that money will always be available to take care of the pets immediately. And if you speak to your attorney or you have your attorney call me, I'm happy to tell them all about it. In fact, I'm licensing this program to law firms now because they don't know why they need to provide their clients with pet trusts. And after I get through speaking to them or they watch one of these videos, everybody's putting a pet trust in their estate plan because they know how important it is with respect to their pets. There's so much more I can tell you. Well, do you have to make it revocable or irrevocable? What would be the best bet? Well, there's so many different things to think about, but that's covered in the Blueprint program. So let's recap a little about why it is you need to make a MAAP plan. Well, you need to make the plan, you need to appoint caregivers, you need to address the needs of the pet, and you need to publish it. And who do you publish it with? Well, not just your attorney, but you need to publish it with your family members. You need to publish it with your veterinarian, because you know what? They are legally not allowed to take care of your pet if somebody not on the list brings that pet in. So if your caregiver isn't on the list because they've never taken care of your dog before, that would be a problem. I hope that you've all, I know your heads are blowing off your bodies, and my apologies, it's like being hit with a fire hose. But as you can tell, this is the most important piece of information that I think I do in my work, because having people understand the need to make a plan, if nothing else, the need to make a plan so that their pets are cared for going forward is so important to me after having lived not having a plan. There are so many other pieces that I give you during the Blueprint program. If you'd like to join us, I'll tell you that it is infinitesimally less expensive than probably what attorneys will charge you if you use it through their whole system. I charge 3 easy payments of $147 or one full payment of $375. We meet 4 times. Well, I must say we meet 5 because I always do a wrap-up call. So we meet for the M, we meet for the A, we meet for the A, we meet for the P, and then we have a wrap-up call if needed. Most people know what they're doing and are ready to go after the P, but if somebody has a question, we all come together and try to answer that question together. Also, we have camaraderie. It is so imperative to work with people who are struggling with the same things you're struggling with. Where do I find caregivers? What are the things I need to tell them about my pet? How do I address my pet's needs? Who do I have to tell? And what kind of proactive things do I need to do while I'm driving my horses in my trailer, while I'm driving my dogs or cats in my car? What do I need to do so that the people who might come if there's an accident know who to call? There are so many things that I give you. This has been, well, 2013, I think the first MAAP plan program I put on was in 2014. And believe me, the information I give you on how to make a plan, who to find, how to set it up, what to do to make sure your pets are safe is sort of like this, a fire hose. And then you get the templates on top that you fill out, so you don't even have to think about it. You get it all together. As I said, law firms will be getting the license program coming up in the next month or 2. So they're going to be able to give this to their clients so that their clients know why they need to buy a pet trust. You can get in on the bottom ground, the lower ground, you can come in with me, you can work it out, and then you can go into your attorney and say, listen, I did this myself, but you might want to do this so that you can help your other clients with pets. Because as Natalie said, it is really scary for trust and estate attorneys to make plans for people's pets, because if you only make estate plans and you don't make plans outside your will so that if you are injured or you get sick, then the plans you make don't come to fruition. It's just so important. I'd like to ask, well, there's only 2 people. Rose, why don't we unmute everyone so that if you have any questions, I see that most people are on the phone. I know Natalie is here, but if we unmute everyone, if you have any questions, it's now 12:30. I said I would end at 12:20. I'm sorry, just so much I wanted to tell you. But if you unmute, let me know if anyone has any questions, or raise your hand. Oh, you can't do that on a phone. So Rose, let's unmute everyone, or can I? I can unmute everyone. Hold on, I can unmute everyone. Participants, manage participants. I'm going to unmute all. And so you're all unmuted right now. If any of you have questions, I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes. I know people's time is really important. So just let me know if there's anything you want to ask.
Well, hi, Deb. This is Jan Longerville.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. I'm really glad that you mentioned that with the horses, they are seniors that I rescued from starvation, that I have brought their previous owners into their lives. One of them lost his business, his wife, his everything, and had to move the horse on to who he thought would be a good home. And then she lost her job, and she could not even get to the horse, who was being boarded an hour away. So she thought she found a wonderful home for him, and the horse descended into hell. That's Charger. And then I came along. Well, she was so mortified and brokenhearted, and so was the previous owner to her. And so they are both participating in his life again and have been to visit him. So it's not always just, you know, horrible people that animals fall into, but we have to try to make plans, because they had no idea what was going to happen to this incredibly stunning saddlebred show horse.
You know, I'm so glad you're on here and you said that, because it is really important, not only when you make the plan and you appoint the caregivers. The redundancy is so important, because we have to make sure not to check up on somebody and see if you're taking care of my horse the way you should, but to make sure that if somebody loses their job or can't take care of a horse, you know, they know who to call. So if Janice can't take care of the horse, you know, she knows that, you know, Deborah and Natalie are the next in line, and she can call them for help. My horse is with a girl, Morgan, who knows that I am here to help her. And I check in all the time, not to see, oh, is my horse, you know, being taken care of, or something like that, but rather to let her know that if anything changes, if anything happens, I'm here, and let's try to work this together. It's hard enough to give them up. As I said, I didn't see him for 10 years, but you just have to always, you know, be available to help in the event something happens.
I think the most important thing in my last two seniors that I have now in their lives is that no one died. They are not the result of being moved on from a situation of death. And yet the people love them. It was just so many extenuating circumstances in both cases. So your point about, you know, the will, that's fine, but you have to make plans. If you're driving down the road and a Mack truck hits you and you are incapacitated, what happens?
Yep, especially with a horse trailer. What happens? You know, and people drive horse trailers far and wide. So it's not like, well, I'm just down the street, they'll come home. Might not. Thank you so much, Janice. I know you're having your house renovated right now, some pipes put in, so I'm so grateful you were able to come on and add the incredible information that you shared with me that makes my heart, you know, warm, because you not only rescued these horses, but you didn't shame and blame these people. You included them, which is so important.
Well, thank you. And I sent the workers out to lunch. It said to take a long time. So that's why it's quiet here.
Oh, good. Anyone else have a question? You're all free, so you can all ask questions.
When is the program starting?
The program is starting, let me see, I have it written here. My apologies, I should have had it right up front. January 27th, and we're going to meet at noontime. And the meetings are the 27th of January, the 17th of February, the 9th of March, and the 30th of March. So at the end, you will have the MAAP plan put together. If you have any questions, if you need help finding people, if you just need help understanding, you know, how to address the needs of my pet, what do I need to do? We're all there. I stay on the phone usually for at least an hour, sometimes longer if people have more questions. And we all work together to make sure that everyone feels as if something happens to me long-term, short-term, my pets are going to be cared for in a way that really serves my pets and me. Thank you for asking that.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do I get information about the attorney licensing or that program?
Well, that's coming out probably the middle of February, so I will
Okay.
get it to you, Natalie. If you send me an email, if you respond to one of the emails, I'll make sure you get it, because we're going to license it to attorneys, because it is so hard to talk to clients about the why. They just think attorneys are trying to handle for money, which, you know, we have to get paid, we have to turn the lights on. But
Right.
quite frankly, you know, having a pet trust is in my, you know, estimation, and I'm not a trust and estates attorney, nor do I play one on TV. I just feel that without that, pet owners don't understand they have to die.
Yeah, and I do business and estate planning for specifically equine professionals. And so the pet trust is actually a hot topic for us, because it's a lot easier to rehome a dog or a cat than a horse.
Try a parrot.
Yeah.
Not easy to rehome a parrot either, and they live longer than horses. So it is, you know, these are things that you really have to consider. And as Janice said, you could do your best rehoming them, and without some redundancy, so that you know there are people watching if you're sick, or if, you know, God forbid you pass away. You want people watching to make sure that, you know, well, I left it to Natalie, but she fell on hard times, and she knew she could call Janice, and Janice could take the horse.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of camaraderie, and of course, if we're over 65, I always talk about leaving less money in the pet trust, just enough money to get the horse from point A to point B, usually, or the dog, because otherwise, as you know, as a trust and estates professional, if you don't leave it as a irrevocable trust, it could be clawed back into the estate.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I follow up with on, you know, the discussions for the Blueprint program, because it really, people don't know what they don't know. And trust and estate attorneys try to tell them, but, you know, some people come in with preconceived ideas of why trust and estate attorneys are doing what they're doing. And I always say to the trust estate attorneys, send them to me. I will help them build a MAAP plan, and then you'll be able to do a pet trust, because that, you know, this way they'll know why. They know why from someone who's not, you know, a trust and estate person, but rather someone who lived it and then created this program so they don't have to live it.
Yeah. Deb, I would like to say that in the back of Charger's story, which is called "Here Comes the Mountain," you have an appendix with several websites or links to websites that people can get additional help from. Do you have those someplace else that's central?
Well, they're on my website, and the link to the Blueprint, which is on the back of the as we say, evergreen link to the Blueprint program is in the back of Charger's book as well. So people who read Charger's book, who, you know, go, holy Toledo, then have this wonderful piece that Janice asked me to put in that would allow people who never conceived that something like this could happen with best of intentions, to reach out, to be part of the Blueprint program, make their plan, and then go to their trust and estate attorney to implement it. I am not a trust and estate attorney. I do not play one on TV, as I said. However, I support them in having you, the pet owner, understand why it's so important to make a pet trust, because we don't have crystal balls. My crystal ball is really foggy. And I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow or if I'm going to be able to take care. I only have 2 dogs now, so it's a little better. But if I'm going to be able to take care of my 2 dogs, if something happens to me, if I get sick, I mean, they make us feel so much better when we are sick, but if we don't have to get up and let them out or take them for a walk, if you live in like an apartment building, that is huge. And cottage industries are everywhere, that you just need to make that plan to make sure they're going to take care of your pets. Thank you.
You know, this is Jan again. In the thoroughbred world, for example, my brother had racehorses, and one was claimed from him, and through various, you know, horrible travel down the line, he ended up in Puerto Rico and looked like one of those Mexican beach horses, and was still running with 6 fractures in his front legs. And an organization by the name of Rerun Thoroughbreds in East Greenbush, New York, went down and got him after Hurricane Maria and flew him back. And he's fine, and he's retired, and he's back to looking gorgeous. But one thing you can do ahead of time is really educate yourself on organizations that can help you as well as people. If something happens to me, Charger and Sable have a written plan, a home to go to. Actually, it's the home they have right now at my farm with my fellow caretaker. But if something happened to her, then they would go to the rescue, back to the rescue. It's all in writing from whence they came. Now, one of them is 28 years old and the other is 22, but because of that, I don't have to ignore redundancy. I have to be even more careful because they have special needs.
Absolutely. And you're like the poster child for this program because you've done everything. And let me tell you, being able to find the rescue. So if you've adopted a dog, make sure that rescue or a rescue that you can become acquainted with will take your dog at the end of the day and rehome it. I know North Shore Animal League for $5,000 will take your dog and either keep it at North Shore Animal League or rehome it, but they won't put it to sleep and they'll take good care of it as the last resort. And as I said before, the Irish Setter Club of America is rescue and the Dachshund Club of America is rescue. Were the last people in my list if in fact the people who I had put on the list couldn't take the dogs. If anyone has a purebred dog, every purebred national club has a rescue that you can, leave your dog to, and they will find a home for it with someone who wants that kind of dog. They don't put anybody to sleep, they evaluate it, and then they place it. But if you have people you can put in as the first, second, and third adopter, and then if that doesn't work out, go right to rescue. You're absolutely right, Janice. You really want to make sure that you leave a remainder man. I always say it's the remainder man. And then for the trust, and I think Natalie might bear this out, I never leave the last person standing as the remainder man for the trust. I always give the trust somewhere else. For mine, it goes to the Irish Setter Club of America Foundation, which is different than the Irish Setter Club of America Rescue. So if there's money left over in my pet trust or after my estate is settled and the dogs are all gone, then that money will go to the foundation, which does health and rescue and all sorts of things. But you don't want to ever leave the money directly to someone. It'll either be the longest lived dog in the world or the shortest lived dog in the world, depending on what can be worked out. Are there any other questions? I want to thank you all for staying this whole time. It's now 12:43. I'm 15 minutes over and I'm so sorry. But I'm so glad you were here. If you'd like to join me for the Blueprint program on January 27th, please let me know. You'll get an email after this with the recording of this program so that you can listen to it again. If you'd like to share the recording and the link to do the Blueprint with friends, please feel free to do that. Some people couldn't be here. If they signed up, they'll get the program, they'll get the recorded program, the video program, and they'll get the link to join us on the Blueprint program on the 27th of January. I hope some of you will join me because your pets are depending on you. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and I so appreciate you being here. Take care. This is Debra Hamilton, Hamilton Law Mediation, and this was the MAAP Plan webinar.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.